pen fell over. Oh, give me 1 second. Fix that. Oops. Well, that looks better. All right. Good morning. Welcome back to weekly live Q&A. As always, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat box. Happy to answer them. I have a few that I got this week on the channel that I was just going to cover. Like I said, it might be quick. This week, I feel a little less prepared than normal for this. My hair is all wet from a shower still. So anyway, I do have a few questions though to talk about that have come up this week. If you did not catch our new upload, sorry, I'm gonna fix this. It's driving me nuts. Not supposed to look at yourself in the camera, right? I do have if you didn't catch our upload this week, it was about what our crickets eat, where we get it, and if you cannot get access to it for whatever reason. I need to turn my phone on silent so that it's not dinging the whole time. Anyways, if you didn't see it, it was all about where we get our feed, what we use, and some things to look for in alternative feeds if you don't have access for whatever reason. I'm pretty sure. So we use the BioForge Labs out of Huxley, Iowa. It's about 7 miles down the road from us. So if you don't have access to it via eBay or something like that, there's many other things that you can use for the feed. So we did talk about that in this week's upload, which I upload every Tuesday at noon. So if you missed it, go check that out. Because that was one of my comments this week was I've been wondering, what you use for a while. So thank you for sharing. Happy to share that. Okay, so question number 1, what size bins do you use for your cricket castle? So we use 50-gallon. They're Sterlite brand, but they're 50-gallon. I'm two ways about them. I do like them in some respects. I started out with 18-gallon Sterlites, and we would shoot for between 1,000 and 3,000 crickets per bin in those. They worked well, but when you have a smaller bin, that just means you have more chores, means more water to change, more feed plates to fill up, all of those things. So the larger the bin, theoretically, the easier the chores. Not always the case with the 50-gallon, but it is a bit of a reduction in labor on the 50-gallon side. So we use 50-gallon Sterlite. The one thing I will tell you when you are looking for bins is make sure that you look at the bottom of the bins. And that may seem really obvious, but it's also a very easy thing to overlook. There's a lot of those plastic bins that have some sort of like deep groove around the outside. That doesn't necessarily work super great. Especially for pinheads, you end up with the pinheads getting trapped. They are a pain in the butt to clean out at the end, like trying to sweep out frass when you have a groove and you have some additional crickets running through. There are a few tips and tricks that I'll probably end up making a video out of how to get those last few crickets out. That just makes your life way easier. But if you can avoid a groove around the bottom of any grow out bins that you're going to use, do that. If there's another option, use it. Even if it's the size you want, you are so much better off just making sure that you don't have a groove in the bottom. It's a roundabout way of saying our bins are 50 gallons. Okay, so the second question. So after the eggs hatch, do you have video on how to raise them to adults? I usually can get to hatch, but lose a lot after that. Feeding, watering, housing as they grow is still hard for me. So I do have a whole bunch of videos on that, but at the same time, I don't think I have something like specific of Okay, cool. You got them out as pinheads. Now what, sort of a thing. So I think I will end up, creating a video based around this, or a little more specifically for this, of growing them from past pinhead stage. Generally speaking, I get the most questions about the breeding and the pinhead stage, which makes sense. On the cricket farming side, like, it is the most difficult part. Uh, Keeping pinheads alive, I should say, is the most difficult part, at least for me. The Your death loss rate is huge very early on, with the pinheads. I think if you can get them past 7 to 10 days, it's usually pretty easy from there. But that may not be the case for everyone. So I probably will do a more extended series on past the hatching. So past the first 48 hours, now what? How do we treat them? How do you keep them alive? What are the keys? That kind of thing. So while I don't necessarily have a specific video to address this, I will work on it. But the major rocks are, as always, with the environment. So heat, access to food and water, shelter, and then air quality. Those four things are a must to keep your crickets alive after hatching, after onto adulthood. If you don't have your environment in order, doesn't matter what you do, your crickets are not going to thrive. So that's the short answer to a. We'll have a longer answer later. Um, and then, what is it you put in your pinhead feed trays for their food? So for the pinheads, we use the exact same thing that we use for the adults. And like I said, go check out that video that we uploaded this week about what we feed our crickets, where we get it, and what you can use for alternatives. So we use the exact same feed for our pinheads as we do our adults, and it is the Bioforge Lab insect diet with meat. It's about 20 to 22% protein. It does have a meat element in there. They grow really well on it. The only additional difference that we have for the pinheads is that we put sliced potatoes in there. Those serve two functions. They eat them, but they also get some moisture from them. We do put the same exact water in with our pinheads that we do as our adults, maybe with a few more rocks than we would with the adult ones, but in general, it's very similar. So, the same stuff. And then the last question that I have is, will the chicken feed be enough without fruits or vegetables? And this is on an older video that I have in a series of raising crickets at home and what to feed them. Short answer is yes. I think in that video, I'm pretty sure I recommended a non-medicated chick starter, which is what I recommend for everybody if you don't have access to the Bioforge Labs insect diet feed. A non-medicated, organic or non-GMO chick starter will work great. Usually those are ground into a smaller grind. They won't be as ground up as powder. Think of it kind of like a cornmeal sort of a consistency. If all you have is crumble as an option, crumble will work. They do not get to it as well, but they can get to it. So a non-medicated chick starter will work great. You can grind up a little bit of like fish flakes or things like that if you want to add some animal protein, because you'll have to check. Most chicken feeds do not have meat in them. Some of them do. So if you can add a meat component, that's better too. But with something like, as long as you have access to water, high quality water access for your crickets, you don't need any fruit or vegetables in there. And actually, I really don't recommend it. They end up being more high maintenance. They end up causing other problems depending on what you are using for your fruits and vegetables. If they have pesticides on them, you're going to end up causing problems for your crickets. And you have to watch out for mold. You have to watch out for other insects that get attracted to them. So if you're using fruit flies tend to become a problem. So truthfully, if you can just use the chicken feed as your as your feed source and then have some sort of a water system, you don't need any fruits and vegetables. And I think, like I said, it makes it way easier in terms of maintenance, keeps your bacteria levels down, keeps your mold down, all of those things. If you can keep those out of your enclosure, out of your environment, all the better. So I told you this one was going to be really short this week because that is all I have for the questions. And I have a lot of work to get done today, so I needed to keep it short and sweet, but I wanted to check in on a weekly one. If you end up having any questions this week, if you are watching this back later and you have questions that you want me to address next week, please drop them in the comment section, or if you want to drop them in a specific video because you have questions on that video, definitely do it. Happy to answer it, and I will do better to advertise next week on that I'm doing the live, because I just kind of sprung this one on people. I did not tell people that I was planning on going live, even though I knew I was. So I will be back next week for another one, Sunday morning, probably 8:30ish Central Time, maybe 9 o'clock. I like to do them in the morning so that I have time to do stuff the rest of the day. I will be uploading another video on Tuesday. I have not filmed it yet, and I can't remember what I had down in my schedule, so I can't tell you what it's about yet because I don't know. But Tuesday at noon, there will be a new upload. So come back and check that one out too, and then see you next week. Thanks, guys.